From Ix Art Park in Charlottesville, Virginia, I'm Joe Vina. This is the Daily Creature. We're doing some organizing here, and look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Wouldn't you think I'm the girl who has everything? Look at this trove, treasures untold. How many wonders can one cavern hold? Looking around here, you'd think, sure, she has everything. I have gadgets and gizmos aplenty. I have who's-its and what's-its galore. You want thingamabobs? I have 20, but who cares? No big deal. I want more. I want to be where the people are. I want to see them dancing, walking around on those, what do you call them? I'm going to stop there. And those, of course, are not my words. Those are the lyrics of the late, great Howard Ashman from the Walt Disney animated version of The Little Mermaid from 1989. The Little Mermaid, of course, being a story initially told by Hans Christian Andersen and published in 1837. I'm having trouble talking about mermaids without mentioning that story. Today, of course, is Mermaid Monday on The Daily Creature, and The Daily Creature is featuring all week mythical creatures. It's a big week. Our cup runneth over, creatively speaking, so I want to jump right in. Had to mention that story. Follow through. Check out The Little Mermaid. Go to Hans Christian Andersen first, maybe. You can check out numerous film versions, book versions, get the books, get the internet, get the streaming. Do it. I recommend it. Kind of a sad story, but still not unworth your time. Friends, as an old art teacher of mine was fond of saying, less jaw, more draw. We have a lot of ground to cover. Let's jump in. Mix and match merfolk made with recycled cardboard from a cereal box of all things. Part 1. That's right, friends. It's a two-parter, and both parts will occur in today's episode. So check it out. Let me bring this guy in. Let's call him Gil. Hi, Gil. And Gil's a merman. Top part man-like. Bottom part fish, yeah, as we know, as we do. And Gil is also two pieces, you see. And the goal here is to create a number of figures like Gil that can be mixed and matched. So you can try different combinations of the merfolk that you create. Now, how did we make him? Well, I used a kind of a lightweight cardboard that you can often find, excuse us, Gil, with cereal boxes. Yes. The cereal box, not really the outside of it. I don't like to use that so much, but the inside, you got that great cardboard color, and it's a nice lightweight texture as well. And forgive me, I have to cut a bit here. You want to find yourself a nice area of cardboard and go on in with a pair of scissors like these and make some cuts. Build out of your box a surface upon which you can work. And of course, you're going to be drawing and cutting from this cardboard, so the look of the edges doesn't matter so much. And you can see I've got about that much cardboard. And again, you will need scissors today. They figure in pretty big to what we're doing. I'm also using, by the way, my micron. That's a number 3. The actual micron I'm using is my graphic number 1. Although I might throw the 3 in there for some details, we'll see. Gil, however, did not get details, but if you have a look here, this is a good size to work with to make some merfolk for Gil to interact with here. I can fit probably 3 or 4 more merfolk into this piece of cardboard. I'm grabbing the wrong pen here. Friends, if you'd like, you can start this exercise off with pencil. It's what I should be doing. I should sketch in pencil first. In this case, however, I am going to work first and only in pen. I may add some color to these. We'll see how it goes. So, taking Gil as an example here, it's important, friends, that the waist of your mix and match merfolk is basically the same on each creature. Sounds a little strange, but it's going to be how you mix and match your figures in the end. To get the measurement that I got with Gil, I just used this handy dandy Lego I had sitting around. And I'm going to say that each of the waists of my mer people is going to fit sort of within these 4 or so little Lego nubs. I'm going to call them Lego nubs. And I'm going to make a little dot here on one side. And here, it doesn't have to be perfect necessarily. And I think I can fit 3 more figures, let's say, onto this piece of cardboard. So I'm drawing out first, just getting my basic widths of each waist, and I'll even do a little line here. The top half of these drawings will be humanoid. The bottom halves will be fishy. Oh, maybe I'll change it up on the third one, but let's start here. We can do our basic sort of traditional mermaid look on this one, perhaps, because why not? I'm going to give her some wild and crazy hair. Flowy hair. We're in the water, of course. And we'll give her the pointy ears, kind of like Gil has. I like the pointy ear look on my mermaids and mer people. I'm going to give her bigger eyes than Gil had. And a nose here. A big smile. Maybe some eyebrows for expression. And I've got her waist right here. That might be a little high up. So why don't we I'm going to make her kind of, I'm going to add some wrinkles to my mermaid. We're going to make her a little older. There we go. Now I'm going to bring her arms out this way, and I'm almost going off my page here. And another arm this way. Now, friends, it's a good time to remember that wherever you draw, you're ultimately going to cut as well. And right here, this is going to be about the midpoint. I'm going to keep my merfolk dressed. And this is an important thing for you to consider. Do you have to dress your merfolk? Of course not. You make them however you want them to be. They can be wearing the fashion of the ocean, shell necklaces. That's what I'm giving this mer person here. I'm adding some details into those hands and arms as well. Some lines into that hair. And bring that down a bit so that's visible. And let's see here. I'm going to give her a nice sort of sweatery thing. This is like a She's wearing a sort of an undersea sweater vest. And we'll make it striped. It sort of comes down into a decorative print there of some kind. And I'll make it a nautical plaid. Now, we get into the tail. I'm going to go traditional fishtail. Maybe like that. And some scales. And some details on the tail. Maybe she's a less than traditional mermaid. I think she's a mer grandmother. There we are. We'll give her some nice. She's got a lot of shell jewelry, perhaps. There we are. And for our next mer person, we'll go with someone. Well, I want to draw around our mer grandmother, and we'll do a profile here. And this will be a proud merman, a big smile. And we'll give him the pointy ear as well. And we'll give him a flowy hair, some sideburns maybe. And we're going to work around our mer grandmother. We're going to give him longer sorts of arms here. He's wearing my merfolk like vests. We'll give him that kind of, let's see, why don't we put something fun on his vest? He's wearing a vest with a fish on it. We'll draw a little fish on his vest. Sort of an angel fish there. That's nice. And we'll give him some jewelry as well. Merfolk like their shellware. And his tail. Oops, we're cutting him off a bit. We'll get his tail to have 3, because why not, right? And each one could have a little something on the end here. Friends, there are no rules to this. And some detail. And I've run around a little bit here. I'm going to move over and put my third guy around here. And again, I think that's about the right width. And for this guy, we're going to switch it up a bit. And we're going to give this guy, this thing, will have swim trunks here. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to have legs that are somewhat humanoid. And we'll even make those, we'll make hairy legs, somewhat hairy legs. And then, and maybe flowers on the trunks. Add some flowers on the trunks, swim trunks. And then the top part, we're going to make into a fish. So let's go this way. Add that eye there. Keep the fish kind of simple. Let's do some fins. There we go. Details, bit of detail. So it's a mix. It's a mix of characters we have here. Try to get them all into view for you. Now, friends, with our friend Gil here, we'll have 4 different creatures here to mix and match. You've done the drawing. I'm taking a look at some of these tougher places here to cut. I'd better get to the cutting. Next step will be cutting, then mixing and matching. And perhaps we'll talk about color as well. We'll see you for part 2. You know, on the Daily Creature, we often use references because what often inspires us on the Daily Creature are real animals from our world, as we've done. Octopus, dolphins, elephants, rats. We have a great reference for these creatures because they are proven to exist. Creatures of myth, on the other hand, we must fuel creatively with our imagination. But there are references, and I wanted to point out one such reference to you right now, to give a shout out to the Doler Book of Greek Myths. This is my childhood copy. I love this book. Strange and haunting illustrations, really, really wonderfully told myths, the Greek myths, of course, which supply our current canon, contemporary day, the monsters, the creatures, the heroes that we often use in our stories still today come from these very old Greek myths, and Doler does it right. So I recommend that one. And there are other references when you're working on creatures of myth. And of course, you can look them up. You can find pictures of dragons, unicorns, the phoenix, various versions of these creatures, from cartoonish and simple to beautifully wrought paintings and sculptures. We've been dealing with these ideas artistically for a long, long time. And these creatures have been with us for a long, long time. But we still get to play around with them, make up new features, create new ideas. When I think of the mermaid, of course I think of the mermaid as we know the mermaid, as we've seen the mermaid before, but I like to think of new ways to represent the mermaid. What does your mermaid look like? It doesn't have to look exactly the way mermaids have looked in the past. It doesn't have to look like mermaids you've seen in pictures. Now, I recommend, if it's a mermaid or a merman, a merperson, if it's merfolk, it should be part human and part fish. But from there, where can you, friendo, as an artist, mix it up? Have fun with it. Have fun with it. There's a novel idea. Are you having fun? If you're not having fun in your art making, adjust. Get to the fun. Let's get to the fun. Mix and match merfolk made with recycled cardboard from a cereal box of all things. Part 2. Friends, sometimes it's good to spend that whole afternoon on the one project, and that's what we're focused on here today. I know I typically throw out a couple of projects per episode of The Daily Creature. Today, we're going to see through just this one. I hope that's okay. We're talking about cutting here now, and effective cutting does take time. Grab a pair of scissors that you trust. I love these little grips here. They're nice and sharp. First thing I'm going to do to cut out these 3 figures is separate them. There are great challenges ahead with some of the fingers and fins of these guys, but a wise move is to separate them all first, carefully. Make things easier on yourself. Now this is tricky because I don't want to cut anything off here. So I'm going to go around, gently around this way. And there we go. And why don't we go in the order in which we began. So we'll start with our mer grandmother. We'll call her Judy, and I'm going to cut on the curve of Judy's tail. Now, I'm kind of making a choice here that I'm cutting just on that line. Friends, you may find as you cut that it gets easier if you go in and get rid of pieces you no longer need. And suddenly there we are. I'm working on that line right there. Friends, depending on your age, you may not be ready for scissors. You may not be ready for this kind of cutting. Some are never ready for this kind of cutting. I would say definitely be checking in with your parent or guardian before cutting anything out, before using any sharp tools. You may have your own scissors, of course. You may not have a parent or guardian nearby to check in with. You may be a slightly older artist. You may have an X-Acto knife, and you would like to cut your mermaids and mermen and merfolk out with an X-Acto knife, and that too would make sense. So, let's do some speed cutting on her for a moment and see where it gets us, and we'll pop back into slow cutting as soon as there's something worth saying. Speed cut, go. When it comes to cutting in between fingers, claws, or toes, even tail fins, it might help to go in almost like little slices of pie, making two cuts. Get rid of what's in between those fingers without cutting those fingers off. Also, the cutting doesn't have to be perfect necessarily, unless that's exactly what you're going for. If you want perfectly cut out fingers, well, it may take you some time, and I wish you luck on that journey. Fabulous. Here we go. And as you come to the end of most of this cutting, you should feel a great sense of accomplishment. Go ahead. Put down the scissors before doing this, but give yourself a good pat on the back for having cut out 4 mer people, 4 merfolk, a mer family. Fun fact, Ethel Merman, not a mermaid, but she was a shooting star, that's for sure. And as I cut these last little bits away, I look for other places I might want to cut. I'm pretty happy with this. I'm going to clear the debris, and we're going to set or reasonably clear the debris as much as I can. We've got our mer people here. It looks honestly like a mer party. And here we go, here we go. We'll get Gil back in here. We have this guy, call him Ted Fishman. And we've got Gil in here, Mer grandmother, and Larry. Let's say this is Larry right here. So Gil, of course, has already received his midsection cut. I'm going to go ahead now and cut each of these guys. In the case of Ted Fishman, I can just really go straight across, clean cut. We'll see how it goes. Now, to get these guys mix and matchable, you know, we'll see. We'll see what we have to do. We might have to make some little adjustments. I'm trying to think of the best way to cut into our mer grandmother. I think I'll just go with this cut that I made. She has kind of her undersea plaid comes to a kind of a triangle. But right away, I'm taking a look and I'm seeing how we can possibly make these things work. So once I've cut these parts, I set them aside. Larry's got a pretty straightforward cut here. And now we've got the mix and we've got the match. Look at this. What fun, what fun. Friends, it becomes more of a game. Now, sort of, I suppose it's a game. But we can begin to take a look at what happens if we, say, put Larry with Ted Fishman. Look at that. We have a whole other figure, right? And if we put Ted Fishman here with Larry's lower half, he's back to kind of just a fish, right? This can actually become quite a lot of fun. That one doesn't quite match up as well, but, well, look at that. He's tucked in quite well. There we go. I like that. That's a good fishtail for Larry. You can move. Let's see. We don't want the fish grandmother to have to use her own. Next step, of course, would be adding some color. And you can do so with markers, with crayons, with colored pencils. I hope that this was somewhat enjoyable and gives you some ideas for ways to go further than simply drawing something, but to really create something that's interactive. You can sit down with a friend now and say, hey, let's mess with these guys. Let's mix and match them. And of course, you can be more thoughtful perhaps than I was about exactly which things you create so the mixing and matching can be a bit more fun. I have a lot of fishtails here with a lot of human top halves or human-esque top halves, humanoid anyway. I recommend you color. We're not going to do any coloring with these guys right now. I'm going to get them all mixed up and I'm going to rejoin them in all new ways. Friends, remember to keep having fun with this stuff. Wait. Part 3, quick color. We'll do a little color here. Why not? We can talk about color for a moment. We should talk about color. What am I saying? I've got these, right? Maybe you have something like this around the house. Crayons. These from a small company that's starting to get a little name for itself. I'm going to take this pale green. We'll start with Gil here. You can color this kind of thing before you cut it out, and that is advisable to color before you cut, but you can also color after you cut. And I kind of like the very subtle look of crayon on cardboard. The colors come through a little more muted, perhaps, a little lighter perhaps than they would on white paper, let's say. But I think once you get a few colors going there, it looks quite nice. I'm going to make This sort of pale green is the skin of our guy here. And I'm avoiding getting into his eyes too much. I've got him flipped over right now. And our dark marker-like pen shows right through, so it's okay to go over top of that. I think this sort of pale green for our guy suits him well. For the vest, what do we think here? I like this kind of reddish brown for the vest. And I'll go ahead and color that as well. Naturally, the harder you push with the crayon, the darker that color will come through. You've worked with crayons before, I'm guessing. They smell wonderful, by the way. I just love the smell of crayons. No, you don't? Well, we'll have to agree to disagree. I'm going to hit his eyes with some color, and I'm going to hit that necklace as well. And I want a color that's going to stand out. So I'm going to go with this sort of orange on the green. We'll bring ourselves in a little closer to Gil's face so you can see. And, you know, I don't have super sharp tips there, so I kind of just color it and wing it. I'm happy with that. I think that works. Let's do a nice color for the shell. Maybe I'll go a kind of a gold or a yellowy sort of color for that shell necklace. You know, it's awfully similar to the color of his skin, more so than I thought it would be. So I think I'll add a little bit of a kind of a rosier pink to it as well. It doesn't seem to do much. So what I'll do now is leave it alone. He's got these two little horns on each shoulder. Forgot about those. Maybe I'll go with a darker green. I also like the point on this crayon. Friends, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes the way I make decisions with which crayon to use is I go for whatever has a better point, especially if I'm trying to get into those harder to reach little places. This green has a sharper point. This brown, a bit more dull. If I'm covering a larger area, not a problem. If I'm trying to get in for smaller areas, the finer point wins. You may have a crayon sharpener, in which case none of this should be trouble for you, and you can just sharpen your crayons. I don't have a crayon sharpener on me. For his tail, I think we'll go with that same pale green that we used before. That makes logical sense. And quick coverage of that tail. Bing, bang, boom. And naturally, you can go in with darker colors, lighter colors, add details. As we saw earlier, once I hit it with one color, unless it's a much darker color, it's hard to get it to show up over top of crayon you've already laid down. But hey, give it a try anyway. I'm going to do a little extra green on this side. I'm going to hit the middle of his flippers with some of this green. Barely even noticeable, but you know, it gets in there. It's a look, and there we go. Gil is good to go, both of his parts, and we'll do a quick speed coloring of Ted Fishman here. I will try to get through Ted Fishman rather quickly. Let's start with his shorts. And there we go. Again, the crayon, it's a subtle effect, crayon on cardboard, but I like it. Do you like it? You don't have to. It's okay if you don't. You want something bolder? I suggest markers. We'll get into markers one of these days here, but why don't we do the old Huh. Fun stuff, friends. The fun never ends. Remember, cereal boxes, right? Remember, a good sharp pair of scissors cut away from you. Be safe. Enjoy. Have fun. Good stuff for a rainy day, mer friends. You know, I get super distracted when I'm supposed to be organizing my tools and my supplies. When I set myself the task to clean and put order to things, I'm just very easily distracted. Does it happen to you? My advice, friends, push through it. Think about the thing you want to be doing. It'll help you get through the thing you don't feel like doing, but have to do. Does that make sense? Have you heard something like that before? Clean your room. Clean your workspace. It'll feel good. In some ways, friends, I think we are, all of us, like that little mermaid, pining for another world, in this case, a world that we remember, and a world that, with some patience, we will get back to. You know, when we do, I certainly hope to see you strolling along down, what's that word again? Street. From Art Park in Charlottesville, Virginia, I'm Jovina. This has been your Daily Creature. Happy Mermaid Monday. Stay creative.